Hello friends, welcome to C# Intermediate to Advanced tutorial. Now you are watching part 4 of the sub-series Create a Custom Performance Counter. In this video, we are going to see how to create performance counters. So in the previous part, we learned about the performance counters. Then we talked about the example. Then we also talked about the objects involved. So if you see, first we will use system.diagnostics namespace. Then we will create a string called category name. So we name the category as button usage. So in the previous video, we talked about group 1, then counter 1, counter 2, right? So this will be used as group 1. You will be seeing that in the next slide. So here we specified category name as button usage. Then we have performance counter object. So this is the actual performance counter, which depends on the objects which we discussed in the previous video. So here we have performance counter. So this is one counter. This is for register click, and we have one more performance counter. This is for update click. So if you see, we will be using this register click for both register as well as a leave button, and the update click, this is used by the update button. So two counters are used by one button. One counter is used by two buttons, register and leave, and we have one more performance counter, update click. It's used by this update button click. So that's how we are going to code. So first we need to create the counter category and groups, right? So remember in the previous slide, we saw category name as button usage. Now in the form load, performance counter category, this is the object we are using, and we are making use of a static function exist, and for this static function we give the category name. So category name is a button usage. We are checking whether it was already created. So based on the return value, if counter is not available, then we will run the code to create the counter. So if it is already available, we won't create. And it will be helpful if you are starting multiple instances of the sample application. So if you start application 3 times, and there will be 3 instances running, and there will be a call for 3 load method, we should not end up in creating 3 different counter. So we have to use the same counter. That's why for the first time the counter will be created, and we check whether a counter exists. So if it is already there, then we won't create the counter. And now we are coming into picture. So first we will go with the creational data structure. So first we create a CounterCreationData instance. Then we use the properties. Counter name is a register click. Then the counter type is number of items. So here we want to accumulate how many times user clicked the register button and how many times they are clicking the leave button. So that's a cumulative count, right? So that's why we use number of items 32. That's the CounterCreationData's counter type. Then counter help, we are providing some descriptive text. Here we are saying how many times register button is clicked by the user. useful to know how many customers registered for a given time. When you are actually tracking it through the Perfmon tool, it will be useful. So for a given period, how many users registered with the website, or here in our case, how many times the button register is clicked by the user. So here is the register button, right? You can mimic it as how many user is online. Likewise, you can imagine. So the next counter creation data is update click. That means here register click will be used by both register as well as leave button click. If we call this as one, it's used by both register and leave button. Then we are creating a second performance counter, and it will be used by the update button. So the code will be similar. We are just creating one more counter creation data. So now you can see we have two counter creation data with us, counter 1 as well as counter 2. Counter 1 is register click and counter 2 is update click. So the creational data is ready. So each creational data contains counter name, type, and some help string for the to know what this counter means. Next, we create a counter creation data collection. So in this collection, we will add this counter. If you see click counter, that's how we are naming it. Click counter collection name, and click counters.add. We are adding both of our counter creational data. Add reg button click and leave button click. So that's the name, right? Reg button click and leave button click. So we are adding both. That means here our counter creation data collection contains two CCD instances, CCD1 and CCD2. One is for register click and another one is for update click, but it is actually in the form of a collection. Next, if you see performance counter category, so here is where we are doing the linking. So in the performance counter category, we are supplying the data whatever we created. Remember, we haven't yet created the actual performance counters. Here we are creating the data required for the performance counter creation. So here now we are making use of performance counter category dot create. So here we are creating the category, and in the category we are supplying the category name. So the category name is button usage. Next time we are providing a descriptive text for that category, and category type is a single instance. Then we pass our counter creation data. So here it's a collection, right? We are giving this collection. That means we are creating, or we are giving the creational data for register as well as update click through this collection. So this will create the category, just like how there is a category processor process. Now it will create a category called button usage, and when user expands, it will give meaningful information like register click and update click. Alright, so these are all the data only. Now we have to create the counters as well. So for that, we already have register click declared at a class level, right? Now we are making use of that register click, and here we are creating the actual performance counter. So this is the object to create the performance counter, and we will do all the linkage here. So this is the category name. Category we already created here. So we give the category name, and we are linking that category with the actual counter. Here if you see register click, update click name is there. Based on that we are creating the counters. The category name, here if you see, we already have the category name. We are making use of the same category name and we are linking. So register click, so it knows from the counter creation data, it knows all this information. Then we create the counter for update click, and this false parameter tells this is not read only, we can do read as well as write action. So read only is false, that means you can do read write both on the counters. Alright, now at this stage if we run the form, we can see the counters get created. Now it's a demo time, and if you see, the category name specifies processor, and here actual performance counters will get created. If we say this is, and if we say this is B, B is here and A is here. You can map it now. Let's go to the demo. So here is our project. We will handle the form load, and in that we will create the performance counters. So first at form level, we need to use the system.diagnostics. So this is where performance counters are specified. Then in the form level, we will declare the required members. So here we have the category name, then we have two performance counter. Alright, now we will go ahead and create the button click counters. So first we will check the counter already exists. Category name, you can see it here, button usage, and the performance counter category dot exists method tells you whether the counter was already created or not. So we make a if conditional, and when the counter is not available, we actually go ahead and create it. So here if you see, we create our actual performance counter creation data. We already saw that in the slide. We have the counter creation data for register click as well as update click. After creating the counter creation data, we add these two reg click as well as leave button click to the click counter. So this is a counter creation data collection. This is counter creation data, and this one is a collection of the data. So we create and name it as a click counters. After that, we add our counter creation data to this counter creation data collection instance. Okay, next we will create the performance counter category. Make a call to create method, and the category name is button usage. You can see that here, category name, we declared it at the class level, and we are using that here during the form load. So this is button usage, and a description that states that there's a group contains counter to measure various click on the form. Alright, so it's a descriptive text. You can read the, first we provided the category name, then it's a category help that's given to the user, and category help text. So after category help, performance counter category type comes into picture. So the performance counter category type is a single instance, one instance we want to create, and we don't want to create multiple instances, and we even checked that in the form load event. Then we pass the counter creation data collection. And you can read the description here. One of the system data diagnostics performance counter type value. So single instance means it will have only one instance, like a singleton. And here we pass our data collection. So the data collection, which is a collection of our counter creation data. So now we have all the counter creation data ready here, and we created the category. Now we need to create actual performance counter to denote these two counter creation data. So this is counter creation data only. We haven't yet created the counter. Now we will do that. So here if you see, we are creating the actual performance counter. We are giving the category name. That means we are grouping this performance counter under this category. Then register click. So this name will go and link to the counter name here, and it knows the counter type and the help text when it is creating the actual performance counter. The third parameter here is, so that's the category name, and this is a counter name, the name of the performance counter. And the third one, if you say, it's a read only property. So we are telling it as false. So that means, so we are passing false. That means we can read the data into the counter, and we can also update the counter. All right. Likewise, we created our second counter as well. So now we have both counters created. We will build this once. Now we will go ahead and run this in debug mode. When the form is displayed, remember you have to launch the Visual Studio as administrator mode, because it needs to create the performance counter and it needs permission to create the counters. Alright, now we will go to Perfmon. We will try to see whether those counters are added. So first let me go ahead and delete the default counter. Click on the plus button. By default it is going to process. So let's click somewhere here and hit the button B. Okay, not moving. That means I have to scroll. So here you can see our category group button usage. So performance counter category dot create category name is button usage, and you can see that here button usage. So these are all coming as part of the counter creation data, and when I expand, you can see there are two counters under this button usage category. One is register click and another one is update click. So here if you see, it doesn't provide space, so it's showing here as a register click and update click. All right, just now you saw how the performance counters are created. From next video onwards, we will use these two counters. So you saw how we created the performance counter, and in the next video we will continue. Thank you for watching. Bye.